Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. New England gets more at 24.
What's up, everybody?
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Giles.
How we doing?
I'm going to give you my headline right off the bat, and then we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Well, that sucked.
It did. It kind of did.
What's funny is, we're not great about pre-planning our headlines, and Giles comes in. He's like, "Oh man, I need to think of a headline. Maybe I'll do it with well, that was dumb." And I was like,
Yeah.
Already taken.
Yeah.
The Portland Trailblazers fend off the Boston Celtics in a game littered with turnovers. And I don't know. What do you want to start with?
It wasn't just turnovers, though. It was missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, I mentioned a couple of times in the postgame show, they're down 106-105, and I think they had 3 straight possessions where they had a chance to take the lead. Ugo had a good look from 3.
Imagine how insufferable the post-game show would have been if Ugo makes that 3. I would have been just they would have had to. You guys would have had to really hose me down.
But that would have been a lot more fun. It would have been a lot more fun. But I guess my point is that despite all the turnovers on the stretch and everything else and all the missed opportunities, they had 3 possessions there where they had a chance to take the lead. Ugo had the 3 missed. Derek White missed a 3. And then the first big turnover in that sequence was Jaylen Brown at midcourt as he got doubled on the ball. That was, again, Celtics were down just 1 at that point. So it kind of, even on a night where it didn't feel like they had their best stuff and things were clunky and they had been turning the ball over, it felt like it was still there for them. It was still there for the taking.
Yeah, it was funny. I went back and I looked at what their clutch record is. And obviously they were bad out of the gates, but they're still 8-8 right now. And the defensive rating in clutch time is 126, which is an egregiously bad number. And I don't even know if they've updated. I think that was updated through tonight. And one of the things that really surprised me is the Celtics rank in the bottom 5th or bottom 5 of the league in turnover percentage in clutch time. So a team that is usually very sure-handed, it makes the right play, maximizes possessions. In crunch time, they've been kind of less great at that. And tonight was the ultimate example where, as you mentioned, I don't think Derek White was great. He went to stood up in the locker room after the game and said, "Hey, that's not me. I was bad." And there were probably 3 different sequences where he either put Jaylen in a tough spot with getting trapped at midcourt, the over and back, wasn't a great sequence. And then the final one where the Celtics are down 4, you're just looking for a bucket to kind of keep this thing going. And Jaylen pops wide open going towards the basket. I actually don't know why he didn't just go to the rim. And I think Derek was expecting him to go to the rim. Jaylen was flaring to the corner, trying to get a 3. And another miscommunication. Ball goes out wanders off, and the Celtics have to foul to try to stay in it, but it was over at that point. And so, just uncharacteristic, although the numbers are telling me otherwise. It does feel like in this stretch, especially in December where they had been 8-2, Celtics were just a little bit more laser focused. It always felt like if they got over that hump, they were going to find a way to win the game. And usually it's Derek White. Now, there was that one sequence. Derek White has the block. It goes the other way, and Jaylen gets called for the offensive foul. And it's maybe it's just not your night.
Yeah, I guess the other weird part, though, that I'm having trouble putting my finger on or just coming to terms with is that Portland didn't really do anything great to win this game. You know what I mean? There have been times this season where the Celtics ran into a team that just shot lights out from 3, and you looked at it and said, well, it's just not your night because that team's out shooting you and outplaying you and outscoring you. Portland had more turnovers than the Celtics, but the big one on top of that to me, Chris, was that what was Portland from the free throw line? Were they 12 of 21 or something like that?
They missed 12 of 21, nailed it, 57.1%.
12 of 21.
Celtics free throw defense was elite tonight.
But what I'm saying is, if you're just looking at some of those stats right there, Portland, it felt like should have been the team that lost this game. It's not so much that they won it. It's that the Celtics kind of just made more crucial mistakes.
Celtics had more points in the paint. They had more second chance points, which is crazy considering how much of a problem Klingon was. They had more fast break points. The Celtics won the shot margin. They made more free throws on less attempts. It really boiled down to it. It's the old inverse here, where the Celtics got burnt by a team that made, and not even a lot of them, but they made 18 threes. I was going to say, like you said, they didn't do anything exceptional. I did not have Caleb Love being the latest Caleb to randomly torch the Celtics.
Yeah.
He might be in line for a $10 million a year contract from the Lakers soon. But Caleb Love makes more threes than any player on the Celtics. Peyton Pritchard made 3, which was a team high. And then Peyton Pritchard, that's the other weird thing. Part of the reason I was so bullish on the Celtics today, I didn't care about, I get it, long flight across country. Maybe you're feeling yourself a little bit after all that's gone well. You got off to a good start. Looks like it's going to come easy. Peyton Pritchard always just saves his best games for against Portland. And tonight, 3 of 10, 9 points.
But that was the second half where it fell apart for him. Because remember the first half? I think he was 3 of 4 from 3 in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had 9. He didn't score in the second half. I know that. He had all 9 points in the first half, but he shot the ball well in the first half, and then it was the second half, especially kind of early in that third quarter. He had a couple good looks that didn't go down for him. And the other side of that was it was Jaylen Brown's night, and it felt like they really tried to run the offense through him, especially late in the game.
All right, let's spend it. I don't like to spend too much time on the positives after a loss, but you did bring it up. Jaylen Brown, 37 points, which is just crazy what the numbers he keeps putting up. 9th straight game with 30-plus points, ties Larry Bird's record. Again, these things feel a little less, oh, wow, when you lose the game. But, Jaylen's been awesome. And that first half where, he just kind of went nuclear midway through that second quarter, was it? And kind of willed them out front. And, again, it just felt like it was easy for him. He was attacking from the corner. He was like everything Jaylen wanted to do, he was doing out there.
It felt like he made a point that he was going to get to the bucket early and often, right? I think he had 6 or 8 points almost right off the bat, like first couple minutes of the game. And then he had the other flurry was what I think right before halftime, knocking down that 3 at the buzzer. He had a nice sequence there.
Yes.
He had 27 points in the first half. Like, he had 27 points in the first half, and when they're up by 8, it feels like, all right, cool, that's going to be one of the talking points. It might even be kind of where you start the conversation is how great Jaylen Brown is. Obviously, it's not tonight because they didn't win the game, and there were reasons why down the stretch. But, yeah, he continues to be phenomenal. Joe Mazzulla, I thought, had an interesting answer on it in postgame as well, talking about how difficult it is to score 30 when the other team knows that you're trying to go out there and you're trying to score 30, and you're still able to do it.
Think about that. They can clearly tell, at least in the second half, that Derek and Peyton are not dialed into the level that they normally are. And so, all the attention is on Jaylen. They're sending their best defender at him every time. They're trying to irritate him, and Jaylen still makes good things happen. And so, ultimately respect to what Jaylen's doing. You could, again, I don't know if I've seen him as frustrated as he was tonight. It was clear, some of those turnovers, not really his fault either. But he was just mad. But I'm sure the whistles weren't helping. Scott Foster is not going to get a Christmas card. Bill Kennedy might. But it's just one of those nights, and I'm eager to see what happens when Jaylen gets a chance to go for the record. Let's blast through a couple quick things here.
Can I just ask you a quick question before we blast through a couple quick things?
Okay.
Who's the Celtics' second best offensive player tonight?
Hugo Gonzalez.
Maybe. I guess my point is that you could probably go in a number of different directions, but there was Jaylen Brown, and then it was one of those nights where you just didn't get help from the supporting cast. Not enough, anyways.
I honestly, Ugo and Anthony ended up with 13 apiece. Anthony Simons, not a great homecoming. Got a little video, I believe. Minus 15 after we spent the entire pregame show talking about how he's the highest plus-minus in the league for December, that has one of his worst plus-minus games. 4 of 11 was what it was. Just I thought he would – same deal. I thought, like Peyton, I thought he would have a little extra juice being back there. Usually get over the emotions of it pretty quickly, and he never turned it up. One thing I asked you in the post-game show, a little surprised, Josh Minot, another DNP. This is 2 in a row.
Yeah.
I get it. He hasn't played consistently enough to maybe, with Garza kind of re-entering the rotation a little bit. But especially tonight, did it surprise you at all?
Yeah.
I don't want this to come off as nitpicking Joe, because we also sit here every night and say, hey, Joe's pressed every right button.
Right, exactly, and that's why. Because I think Joe's had a really good feel of who's going to help on any given night and who's going to be able to give them what they need. That's one of the reasons they came into the game at 19-11, right? Is because they've had rotational guys help out on the margins and be the difference in some of these games. And I would have been curious to see Josh Minott in this game, and I'd be curious to see if we see him against Utah now as a result, because rebounding was an issue, and Josh Minott, to me, was one of the answers when the Celtics were struggling to rebound the ball early in the season, the first week of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Garza plays 11 minutes, but only one defensive rebound in that span. It's funny because I felt like when he first got in there, he was super active, definitely on the offensive glass, and then it just kind of fizzled. Ugo, again, is one of your better rebounders with 6, and thank goodness he's been able to play a little big, because Celtics have struggled there to finish possessions. Jordan Walsh, 9 minutes 46 seconds.
Well, he picked up 3 fouls almost immediately, right?
Or 4:30 of play, I think, was the total of time. He's running into a situation now where, I don't know if it's teams are aware, he's aggressive with his defense, and so it's easy to kind of, if he gets 1, 2 sometimes comes quick. You got to be careful, and he got 3, and I was surprised that when they were kind of trying to figure out the lineup in the second half, that they didn't go back to him, for much more than to start the second half. But 9:46 surprises me. It's just, I think, again, Joe wants him to be out there and not foul, but after that first stint, maybe he just didn't feel like he was getting enough, and weird to see him be under 10 minutes in a starting role.
Yeah, and I can't remember if he got pulled after his second foul right away. It must have been, right? And then he picked up the third when he came back in.
Exactly, and then they pulled him almost immediately again.
Yeah, did he finish with 5 fouls?
Only 3.
So
which is weird, right?
That is peculiar. Yeah,
he got put back in there in the second half, and they never quite went back to him. Now, again, I get it. They played small a lot of that half. It was a weird lineup, like Hauser and Ugo, sort of the big men, with Jaylen and Pritchard and Derek White. It's just, I get what they were trying to do, and they've had some success. They do this zone 2-1-2 matchup. They've had some success with that zone and masking the fact that they're small. This just felt like a night where you needed a Walsh or a Minott or somebody else in there. Even Shireman, he's been good on the glass. But
I thought Shireman had a sneaky, pretty good.
Right, great 7 minutes.
He had a number of just kind of hustle plays in there.
Which is crazy because he didn't have a rebound. He only had 1 assist, 1 steal. But it felt like he had some good moments. You know what? I kept saying it all night. It was a tough night for everybody. From Derek White being uncharacteristically bad to Peyton not getting going in Portland, to JB putting up crazy numbers but having the miscues at the end. Everyone was just a little off, and maybe Joe was just a little off. Scal gave the Tommy Award to Derek White. Crazy.
You did, yeah. You were not happy about that.
I love Scal.
Can I just say though, tonight was not an easy night to give out the Tommy Award.
We normally bust Scal's chops because it's there's too many options. Tonight it was if you just given it to Jaylen, probably would have been the safest bet. Okay, let's give it to the guy who's tying Bird's record. I know what he was trying to do. Derek had some crazy plays. That block, look, if Derek blocks that shot and Jaylen finishes on the other end and doesn't get the offensive foul, that gets upgraded to a flagrant,
right?
The game probably tips the other way. All the momentum is with the Celtics at that point. They'd get an and one. They would have gone out front. Instead, now you're just kind of fighting back. I get what he was doing, but then Derek had just a miserable final 75 seconds.
He did. Jaylen also struggled in those same 75 seconds, though.
True.
So it's,
So what do we do? Do we bury it?
Yeah, I don't. This doesn't feel like one you really kind of belabor. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This isn't.
I like it.
How much time do you really need to spend on a mid-December? It's late December. I forgot what month it was.
I don't even know what day of the week it is.
So it's almost January. But
there hadn't been football today, I would have been so confused about what day it is.
Yeah, I don't know. This just felt like it, even in the middle of that game, we watch it with Max and Mark and Josh, our crew for Celtics pre and post game. It just felt like a weird game. Scal described it going into it. He said on the pregame show, he said, it just feels like a weird spot. It's going to be a tough one. Mm-hmm. And then you're watching it play out, and it's just it feels a little off. Everything just kind of felt a little bit off. So it does feel like one that you probably just you bury and you get back at it. And you go out there and you beat Utah and try to win the last 3 games on the road trip, which would they go 4-1. You're still that's a good trip, but they gotta bounce back to forget this one, if you will.
Having a vehicle you can rely on, that's important. That's why you can rely on 24 Auto Group. They will treat you like family. And that's because they are family owned and operated. They're honest, easy to work with, and they just get it. Whether you're looking for something sporty, something luxurious, or just a solid everyday ride, 24 Auto Group always comes through. With 9 brands and 11 locations across New England, there's something for everyone. And here's the best part. They've got the knack to save you more on a new or pre-owned vehicle, and the knack to pay you more for your trade, up to $2,400 over book value. You can even drive home with just $24 down. So if you want the best deal without the runaround, go see my guys at 24 Auto Group, because you always get more at 24. Online at 24autogroup.com. You were going to slip up somewhere. I fully expected that you wouldn't go 5-0 on a West Coast trip with 5,000 miles of travel. I thought that Indy game would be tough because it's playing the same team twice. But you know what? Just like you said, bury it, move on. If only we gotten robbed.
That was the tough part of this whole thing, is that, I feel like you would feel differently if the Celtics lost this game, and instead of Donovan Clingan making the and one that kind of iced this game, if it was Rob Williams
at least
had the offensive rebound, and then it would have been Rob Williams getting fouled by Ugo Gonzalez and making the and one.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not sure what happens.
I don't know either. It would have been tough, Giles.
Your head would have exploded.
I would have been conflicted.
Yeah.
On one hand, I want all the good things to happen for Rob. On the other, I don't want Ugo to be in that situation. I want the Celtics to win so that we don't have a depressing podcast like this. And then, it's double-edged sword there. But maybe I dodged the bullet.
Yeah. Is this a depressing podcast? I'm going to be honest with you, because when you asked me about burying it,
I've actually thought we've done a good job.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, like, do you remember after Game 3 when they lost to Detroit and we're sitting here like, what are they going to do? Second night of a back-to-back? Is Jaylen Brown going to play because he hurt his hamstring and he shouldn't, should they really be rolling him out there for the 4th game of the regular season, and they're 0-3 and you're thinking, oh, man, what's happening with this team?
There you go, John.
Those were like the depressing. Like at that one felt a little more.
You're bringing me back, and I've spent like most of the last 2 weeks talking about taking a step back and not getting so caught up in the wins and losses. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah, I'm just saying this one doesn't feel like that. Yeah. This one feels like you just had some mistakes along the way and you didn't have your best stuff.
It's funny because I think that night we said, when do they get their first win? And then what would you say the other night? They ran off 19. They were 19-8.
19-8.
Yeah.
So now they're 19-9 since that start.
Yeah, still trending in a good direction. Still much better, and a chance. You're going to get reminded. And no one goes through an NBA season and doesn't have these sort of duds and these sort of just games where you're not laser focused. And I do. It takes a little bit of the sting out knowing that, scouts, they're on the plane. They can feel the temperature of the room. They know what it feels like going into a game like that, and just have those nights. And I'm not writing it off. You got to be better. Derek is just not usually that poor at the finish line of games, and usually you find a way. Now they got to figure it out. I just told you too. Like the most surprising thing is you got to turn the page, and the Jazz, who I have been barely paying attention to because it's just the Jazz. I just figured they were kind of listlessly going through the year. They've beaten the Pistons and the Spurs in their last 2 games.
So they're due to revert back down to
I
earth.
like it. The spin control, the spin zone on this podcast tonight is amazing.
I'm just saying, they're obviously playing better if they're doing that, but at the same time, come on. They'll come back down to earth a little bit.
So I told you this story. So if you're listening on the audio version, I'm just pawing at my Rob Williams Maine Red Claws bobblehead, which is one of my favorite possessions of all time. The best part of it is on the base of the bobblehead is a clock for the Time Lord.
Wow.
And they really did a good job on this one.
What year do you think that is?
So I'd have to go look it up. So if he got drafted in...
I want to say it was 2017.
Yeah. I was going to say 18, but whatever it was. Let's say it was 17. I think they did it later in his career. He'd done the stints in Maine, and then
it must have been 2018 because Tatum was 2017. They weren't drafted the same year.
That's right.
2018.
And then I would say this was probably a pandemic era release, and for whatever reason, I knew it was happening, and shame on me, I didn't make the trek to my beloved Portland, and was kicking myself for not getting up there, and then during the would have been 24 season, championship run. We were doing stuff outside the Garden after every win, and a nice gentleman came up to me and was telling me how he was collecting all like a lot. He would get a lot of the stuff from the whatever they were giving away that night, and I must have invariably said, just invariably said, "Oh man, the one I really wished I got into was the Rob Williams one." And so he showed up one night with a box, and he hands it to me, and he goes, "I want to give you this," and I said, "No, I couldn't possibly." And he goes, "I have 2 of them," and I said, "Give me that." Even worse.
And then he said, "Guys, I'm done doing TV. You got to get me to a safe place immediately because I just came into possession of one of the most valuable pieces you have ever seen." That is, by the way, one of the nicest things I've heard. Like, shout out to that guy for hooking you up with the Rob Williams bobblehead.
It gets worse. So I'm overcome with joy that he has given me this bobblehead. But 2, I say I must somehow repay your kindness. He asked me for something, I don't remember what it was. Even worse, I believe I said, "Here, please write your name and email address on this piece of paper." And I tucked it into my suit coat, and it's somewhere in a dry cleaner.
Oh my God.
So, kind gentleman who makes many trips to the Portland Expo. If you see this, first off, know that your generosity and kindness. I've told my children. I tried to tell them like how a small act of kindness can change someone's life. Like I do not know. My life would not be as fulfilled right now if I did not have this Rob Williams bobblehead.
And that Rob Williams bobblehead, by the way, was prominently featured in the first segment of the Celtics pregame show.
You can see that little clip on Instagram where Giles roast me pretty hard.
I was trying to be nice.
You were, and but you're being truthful. And so it was disappointing. This is the 5th opportunity that Rob had to play against the Celtics since being traded. He has played in 0 of those games. So
do you think that's just a coincidence?
Well, so the first year he got traded, he only played 6 games. So whatever.
Okay, but tonight was
weird.
An option.
Tonight was interesting that the Blazers clearly said, we have a back-to-back. We have a lot of guys that are injured and or Drew's older and, whatever. So they decide to rest. Robin was available the other night. Robin's played 20 games this year. Played pretty well in some games. And they decided to rest him on the front end of a back-to-back, which they've very rarely done. They've typically rested him on the second night of back-to-backs. But a game against Dallas, a game against a conference opponent, a game against a team that could be in the mix for the same playoff seeding, if the Blazers are lucky enough to hang around there. So I don't know if that went into it. I don't think Rob's sitting there going, I don't want to play against that team.
No, maybe the Blazers were just like, we could beat the Celtics without Rob Williams.
Hurtful again. And maybe so. Maybe they were just like Boston coming 5,000 or 2,000.
I don't think they thought that at all. By the way, I don't know why they chose to do it the way they did it, but
get them aggregators, get them Blazer aggregators. I'm sure there's like a huge Blazers aggregation scene that just looks for people slighting them in the aftermath of games, and they're like, "Oh, we'll show him."
How did I slight them?
Tiago Splitter does not throw games. Did you know Tiago Splitter was the coach?
I did. I did.
I did not know.
He did start the year as the coach, not the.
I knew he had been appointed in place with Chauncey Billups. I did not remember. I watch more Blazers games than anybody, but a lot of it is. Turn it on. Is Rob playing? Nope. Okay, let's go watch the Nuggets. Because there's always league passes is fun. All right, I'm rambling here. My long story is, as we look ahead to 2026, if there's a small act of kindness you can do, good for you. You're a better person than me. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
Have a good one.